And we are back. Mike Cernovich, Danger and Play, and Gorilla Mindset. Here to talk about 10 ways the government and corporations lie to you. I'm going to do this off the top of my head. So it's like a rapid fire round. I just looked through your comments and I picked that one. So let's see if we can do it, but I'll probably lose track because we talked about this in the first video. 7 items we can keep on our working memory, plus or minus 2. 10 is a lot. 1. That fashion is about looking different every day. That is a big one. The idea that you need a big wardrobe. I have maybe 5 or 10 shirts, and that was true even when I was running the game. Even when I was out getting mad pussy. You got to look good every day. That's way more important. Looking good is about being fit, going to the gym. It isn't about having a huge fucking wardrobe. If you go out, and it's about finding the right shirts that fit you and that you look nice in. So if you go out, it isn't like people know that you wore the same clothes every day. Or if they do, and I had a girl say before, like, oh, you wore that shirt yesterday. Oh, you're paying a lot of attention to what I'm wearing. See? Because if they call you out for it, that means they're obviously keeping track of you. And then right there you got a hook, and they're like, oh. So the idea that fashion is about looking different all the time, no. It's about looking good all the time. 2, that you should have toothpaste that foams. There's a compound in toothpaste called sodium lauryl sulfite, or SLS for short. That's why toothpaste foams. It's a foaming agent. It also gives you canker sores. I hadn't realized it until years ago I started using a xylitol-based toothpaste, and I thought, why, I never get canker sores anymore. And then when I moved, I couldn't get it. And I started getting canker sores, and I thought, well, why? Well, it was because I used Spry. The idea that you need foam in your toothpaste, it actually strips your gums. It dries them out and gives you canker sores. 3, that you need to put soap all over your whole body. Eye soap here, behind the ears, ass, cock, balls, feet. That's the only place I ever apply soap. You don't need to apply soap anywhere else. 4, that you need to use shampoo. Look at this hair. All natty bro. I'm all natty now, but usually I'm not. This is the most natural part of my body. I don't use shampoo. I haven't used shampoo in like 3 years. Shampoo strips your body of its natural oils. That's what, but it's another thing to sell you, right? They always want you need shampoo and this, and they need a conditioner. Because if shampoo strips your body, so they sold you one thing you don't need. 2, well, you better condition your hair, right? Next one, I don't even know what number we're on anymore. We're just going fast. I don't wash my face. Next one is that you need to replace razors all the time. So there's a trick you can go to on YouTube where you take your razor blade on a dry pair of pants and you go up one direction 10 times and then you go up the other direction 10 times. Now you do it with the curvature of the blade. You can watch it, in the videos. If you do that, your razor blade will stay sharp for months. So I'll shave here and I shave here. And even when I would shave fully, a razor would last me like a month. There's no reason that you need disposable razors and that you need to replace them all the time. The next tip would be you can take a razor. That's not really a lie, but while we're talking about razors, if you want to even your skin out a little bit, you can take a razor. Now don't grind it, but just even when there's no hair. The reason for that is look at a man's face. You'll almost never see wrinkles there until he gets really old. That's because it's called dermaplaning. D-E-R-M-A, skin, planing, because you're stripping the plane of your face. Well, that's because you're constantly encouraging your skin to regrow. So about every 3 or 4 days, I'll dermaplane a little bit up here. I go, be careful, up here, and then up here, and don't clip your eyebrows out, and don't grind. All you're doing is just really, really light, just to get that top layer stimulated, because then blood flows. Next thing, corporations and government lie about. In a lot of ways, corporations and government are the same. That we needed a bailout, that was one of those real big lies. If we didn't bail out the banks, then the whole financial system would collapse. Well, other countries didn't do it, or they did it differently, and their banks were just fine. The whole idea that we needed a bailout's a lie. That the banks paid back the bailout. So there's all these ways to define bailout. So whenever someone says the banks paid back the bailout, say, well, define paid back. And I'll give you an example. If you loan me $100 and say, if you loan that money back to me, I'll pay you $103. Did you bail me out? Now, that might sound ridiculous to you, but there are things called the Federal Reserve discount window. There's a discount rate, and then banks get paid for holding reserves in their bank. So the government literally, and they'll say, well, the Federal Reserve isn't the government. That's another one of those great lies. The Federal Reserve is a private bank, and everything's private, except that the Treasury Department is what says it's on the dollar, and the Federal Reserve moves our U.S. dollars. That's another one of those little lies. But what the government will literally do is they'll say, here's your money, and then we'll hold it, and we'll give you interest. Sounds crazy, but it's all true. So that isn't technically a bailout. Technically, the bailout was, well, here's $700 billion, and then, pay us that back whenever you want to. Another thing that isn't a bailout is, so Goldman Sachs and other banks got a special exemption that allowed them to take money that they borrowed from the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank, knows the government, and invest that in the market. So if the government gives me $1 billion and I invest it in the market, if I fail, they're going to bail me out. But if I win, then I can keep the profits and I pay the government back. Is that a bailout? Well, no. Seems like a bailout to me. So the idea that the banks paid out the bailout is a complete total fucking lie. They definitely did not pay back, depending on how you define the bailout. If you define it narrowly, then, well, we loaned them some money, it was fine. Another way they didn't pay it back was there was a company called AIG that owed Goldman Sachs a bunch of money, something like 11 to 13 billion. If AIG didn't pay Goldman Sachs back this money, Goldman Sachs was going to disintegrate, go away. So what happened? The Federal Reserve, in a transaction called Maiden Lane, M-A-I-D-E-N, Lane, L-A-N-E 1 and 2, look all this stuff up yourself. Don't, because it'll give you high blood pressure. It used to get me angry, but I just realized it's such a farce, there's no point in getting mad. So Maiden Lane gave AIG 13 billion or 11 billion, give or take, right? And then AIG paid back Goldman Sachs. Well, that wasn't a bailout because AIG owed Goldman Sachs the money. Well, where did AIG get the money from? The Federal Reserve, right? So that's why when you talk about this Wall Street stuff with people, everything you hear is a lie, even on the media. They'll say, well, the banks paid it back. The banks absolutely did not fucking pay back the money at all, because the bailouts were more like 10 trillion rather than 700 billion. Oh boy, next one. That if you are not sick, you're healthy. That is a big lie from the big healthcare corporations. And it is a lie to prevent human optimization. The government's in bed with this lie. So let's say I go to the doctor and I'm like, I'm just a little bit tired, a little bit run down. And he gives me a bunch of tests. The lab ranges for normal are 1% above you're ill, right? Or you're completely healthy. Well, if I'm at 1% away from being ill, my lab ranges are normal, so I can't get treatment, right? So if I go in and say, doctor, my memory just isn't what it is. Well, let's give you a test. Well, your memory's fine. Even if it's really low and I could get medicinal or something to maybe help my brain. No. Same way with testosterone level. Guys, when they're like, the range is something like, the normal range is 300 to 1100. 1100 is like fucking the most aggro ape that you know. And then 300 is your 70-year-old grandfather, unless he has a high testosterone level. It's like a 70-year-old frail old man. Well, if you have 301, you're normal. Therefore, you're not sick. So it's the whole idea that healthcare is about you're either sick or you're not sick. So the idea of human optimization is actually illegal. It's called performance enhancing, right? You use a performance enhancing drug. Yeah, in what fucking world should I not be able to use a performance enhancing drugs? How does it even make sense, right? It just doesn't make any sense at all, but those are the lies that corporations and the governments tell you. Other lies are that cholesterol drugs work. Statins or statins, they don't work. You can look them up. Antidepressants, it's another lie. Antidepressants don't work. They're no better than placebo. They caused a firestorm. So a psychiatrist went through all the studies and did a meta-analysis and said, when you run these through, they are actually not more effective than placebo. And it was everybody at the conference went crazy, and they said, well, you can't say that. That'll make patients feel hopeless, right? Well, okay, but they don't work, right? They just don't work. And that's why patients will say, well, I took this one, it didn't work, and then that one, it didn't work. And then finally, after the 5th pill, it took it. Well, maybe your depression just cleared, right? Depression tends to come in phases. Did it really work or didn't it, right? So it's a very, very tough line. And what's odd about that is self-talk helps depression. A drug, but it's not a drug, it's a supplement called NAC, N-acetylcysteine, actually is more effective than any other drug for treating schizophrenia and depression. You guys have heard about it because you read Danger and Play. Why doesn't everybody else have it? Well, where's the profits in it, right? Where are the profits in it? If there ain't big profits in the drug, you're not going to get it. The next slide you hear, and this is from the government and from corporations, is that science is real. Oh yeah, well, science. Well, what is science? Well, they've done all these studies now that have shown that I think 75% of scientific studies aren't replicable. So replicability is the idea that if I do an experiment, you can go completely independent of me, do the same thing I did, and get the same result. Most of them aren't replicable. Well, that's interesting. There's also been massive peer review fraud. That's interesting. Science is really about morality. And I'll give you an example. What is aging? What is it? Think about it for a minute. Well, aging is a natural thing. So if you go to your doctor and you want drugs that's anti-aging, which is, they'll say, not real science. That's what they'll say. Google anti-aging. They'll say it's a pseudoscience, doesn't exist. Well, why? Because aging is natural. Louis C.K., who, he's a dipshit in terms of being a man, but he had a funny skit where he said, when you go into a doctor and you're like 16 and you have a bad ankle, you go to the doctor, you say, I got this bad ankle, what do you do? And they're like, well, yeah, let's put titanium plates in there and we're going to give you this and that, and you'll put a jetpack on you and a jet thruster and we'll make you back to normal, right? But if I go in and, Louis C.K. I think was 40, and you're like, yeah, my ankle, it just kind of hurts. And the doctor's like, yeah, like, well, yeah, but, can we do something? Like, no, like, but what do you mean no? No, just, you're getting older. And I had a similar experience. So I used to need a corrective lens in my eye, and I cured it with blueberries and fish oil. Why? That's another thing you won't hear, that nutrition is actually a drug. But anyway, before I cured it with blueberries and fish oil, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't really bad nearsighted. It was like 0.75 corrective. I can't remember if it was near or far sighted, but anyway, I would go in for an annual checkup, and I told my optometrist, I said, sometimes when I look at the computer screen the other day, it kind of freaked me out. I went blind for like 10 seconds. So I was really like freaked out. And I go, and another time I'll see kind of like specks. And he's like, yeah, And I'm like, dude, I was like freaking out. Like, am I going to go blind? Like, you just, as you get older, your eyesight changes. Well, that isn't science. That's a moral judgment that you just say, well, you're getting older. Well, how about you're getting older, your eyesight changes, modulate that with nutrition or modulate that with HGH or testosterone, right? Well, you can't do that because anti-aging isn't real. Well, why isn't anti-aging medicine real? Well, because it's not science. Why isn't science? Because we made the moral judgment that aging is natural. Okay? So what does it even mean to say something is science? Who knows? The next one would be that food can't cure illnesses. Absolutely, it can. I don't know what to say. It just can. So I started losing my eyes, not losing my eyesight, but I never needed glasses, and I had been tested in the Army many, many times. And in law school, you're holding your books up like this. My eyesight started going bad. And at the time, my nutrition wasn't that good either. I got fat. And then I started learning about nutrition. I started taking fish oil. And they would do when you go in for an eye exam, they do like an x-ray of your eye. And you could compare it. And at the time, I was with a woman who had really bad eyes, and her eyesight was getting worse every year. So when I met her, it was negative 2.5. And by the time we really cleaned up our diet, it was negative 3.75. So I got us on a diet, a lot of blueberries, a lot of fish oil. Well, when we went back in for our next exams the next year, she needed new glasses because her vision had improved. It was now back at negative 2.5. Now she still needed lenses, but her eyesight was no longer getting worse. And in fact, it improved a little bit. Now, would her eyes get completely better? Well, genetics play a role, but that was just food. And then the same thing happened to mine. And they're like, what did you do, And of course, fish oil, oh, yeah. Like, no. Like, you can look, and that's where science is a ruling science, because only drugs can cure you, right? No, I mean, you could look at an x-ray 2 years apart, two different people. Now, if you want to make it real scientific, do a double-blind placebo-controlled test, but they wouldn't even do that, right? Because the idea that, well, you can improve your health with food, they won't accept that because that goes against their religion, because science really is religion. What are we at? 8, 9, 10? I don't know, guys. I haven't been keeping track, but I could probably do 100, because danger in play is ultimately founded on the proposition that everything you told is a lie. And that's not really true, but most. And I got that line from an Immortal Technique song. So that's another thing that cracks people up, right? I'm this white, nationalist, racist who everybody claims, right? Oh, you're racist, this. Like, well, yeah, I mean, I got that from an Immortal Technique song, which is Point of No Return, and the line goes something like, this is the last time I kneel and pray before the sky, because everything that I was ever told was a lie. And Immortal Technique's perception of reality is a little bit different than mine, but yeah, most of what you have been told by the government and by the corporations is a lie based on one thing: to get you enslaved. Debt slavery. That's why, going to college. Corporations tell you that, and the government tells you that. Well, we did a whole video, don't go to college. That's another lie. Don't buy a house. That's another lie. We could do this all day. Nice guys, women want nice guys. Government, tells you that. Rape culture is real. That's another lie from the government. 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 women in college are raped. Okay. And global warming is real. That's another lie. Now, how do I know that those are lies? If you really believed that 1 in 4 women or 1 in 5 women get raped in college, you would not fucking send your daughter to college. That the odds of those are worse odds than if a man go to prison. If you or I went to prison, depending on a number of factors, but they call it clean papers. Papers are it's your rap sheet. So if you're not a sex criminal and you're not really effete, and you kind of stick up for yourself, you probably won't get raped, right? Prison rape happens, but it's overblown, especially because there's a lot of gays in prison. But it's around 10%, right? If you're a man, there's 1 in 10 men in prison get raped. And most of us know that, like, well, fuck, prison's dangerous. If we went to prison, watch your back, you'd read a book on how to prepare it, you'd really, like, adjust your mindset for it, right? So all these people in government and academia are saying 1 in 4, 1 in 5 is raped. Oh, hi, daughter, let's just drop you off at college. Oh, right? They don't believe it because they know it's a fucking lie. It's the same thing men cause global warming. I'm going to fly my private jet and live in a mansion and, right? Okay, if you really believed men cause global warming, the first thing you would do is you would change yourself, right? That's kind of what you do, right? Change what you can, change yourself. But they don't really believe it. They don't believe any of that stuff. They just want to keep you. They want to keep you enslaved. They want to. Oh, another good lie, and I think we're well over 10 now. Another lie is that if you're a nationalist, you're a racist. I am a nationalist. My voice went up pitched. I'm a nationalist. I'm white. That does not mean I am a white nationalist. It means that I believe in America. I believe America is a country that has a culture. I believe the culture is worth preserving. I believe our culture is based on free speech, open inquiry, even a little bit of Christianity. I'm also a white man. I believe we should have a border. The government would tell you that I'm therefore a white nationalist. That isn't true, is it? It's another lie from the government. So there you go. We can do 100 of them. What do you think? What is the biggest lie the government or a corporation has told you? Let me know. Post your comment below, and I'll talk to you soon. Maybe I'll talk to you tomorrow.